The kingdom of God, the sacred tone, reveal His purpose. It's what we do, so we gotta act. 237, there's a whole book on it. The question you gotta answer is, what are you gonna do? It's what are you gonna do? It's what are you gonna do?
What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Curtis. This is the pierced heart, and that's coming out of Acts 2:37, where it says they heard the word and they were cut in their hearts, or they're pierced to their hearts. And they looked at Peter and the apostles and they said, "Brethren, what can we do?" So what can you do? Well, it's a very good question. It's one I've been asking myself for the last 6 or 7 months, and I want to encourage you to ask yourself the same question. What can I do for the kingdom? We're continuing in our Defending Your Faith series, so if you haven't seen the first 5 videos, go check those out. They're pretty good. If you haven't seen the first series of Developing Your Faith, which I did in January, definitely go check that one out, because that one is very important to anyone who might be wondering, like, how do I develop my faith? Well, simple. You gotta find your disconnections. You have to establish, the reconnection, and then you have to build on that foundation, on that trust in God. But we are in video 6, which is crazy. We're already here, and I want to talk to you guys about setting up your spiritual defense. And setting up your spiritual defense means you have to recognize that it's not as good as it could be, or that it's completely broken in the first place. So let's go to Nehemiah 2:17. Don't mind a little bit of noise in the background, guys. We have obviously changed locations, and there are now dogs in the house. So I did my best to keep them placated, but just bear with me. So Nehemiah 2:17 says, "Then I said to them, you see the distress that we are in, how Jerusalem lies in waste, and its gates are burned with fire. Come, let us rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, that we may no longer be a reproach." Like I said, to first set up your spiritual defense means you have to recognize its state. If it's broken, if it's in disarray, if there are chinks and cracks, you have to make sure that you're being honest with yourself about where you are and what you're allowing in, and what's that doing to what your faith is on this journey. Broken walls and burned gates are symbolic of vulnerability, and some people don't want to admit that they're vulnerable. A lot of men in the church don't want to admit that they're vulnerable. They don't want to admit that they might be struggling because they got to be tough. And a lot of women, won't admit that they're vulnerable because, they feel like they need to be something, for somebody else. And it's a human flaw in nature that we have, that we carry with us. And it's something we have to recognize that isn't true. God didn't create Adam. He created Adam and Eve. And He created them to help each other. He created them to become one cohesive unit. I'm not saying that every man and woman should be one cohesive unit, but what I am saying is that He made us all to encourage each other. When one of us is down, the other one can encourage the other. But when we allow ourselves to become vulnerable, it shows that we have a need to rebuild and restore daily the walls and gates of our spirit to deny access to the enemy. I've talked about gates briefly in a few of my videos, and the two that I mentioned a lot are the eyes and the ears, because a lot of today's, ideology is influenced by outside sources. There's not too many new ideas. There's not too many, people trying to come up with new ideas. Take a look at entertainment. We're pretty much recycling old ideas or remaking things because they were big hits back in the day, but not a lot of original ideas. And the original ideas we do have, they're not very good. But when we restore our gates and our walls, when we set up, a good spiritual defense, we allow ourselves to not be influenced by what the world says should be good. We're allowing ourselves to be influenced by what the Word says should be good. And the Word is our biggest wall. We can set up this thing in front of us, and we can allow this to be what our eyes see. We can allow this to be what we speak out loud and what we hear. We can allow this to be, what influences us and what makes us. But the responsibility of keeping our walls and gates maintained properly is for not only for spiritual defense, but also our ability to be surrounded by these worldly systems that are telling us what we should and should not do, and not allowing them to permeate through and weaken our resolve to perform the will of God. Because ultimately, that's pretty much what this life boils down to. What master are you serving? What's your purpose? What are you trying to reach? What is your end goal? And for a lot of us, that's a career goal, a status goal, societal goal, whatever. For everyone, the goal should be to make it back to heaven. And that requires some of us to make sacrifices. That requires some of us to, step away from some of the things that we deem good or worthy of our time. Because if you're going to build a wall, are you going to choose paper or stone to build that wall? And don't get me started on the semantics of, well, Chris, if you layer paper, No, I'm talking about if you're going to build a wall, are you going to build it with layers of paper, or are you going to build it with a layer of rock? The idea behind that challenge is that the materials that you're using, and how much time and skill you're allowing to be put into the defense of your soul and spirit, because that is what you should be focusing on. All these other things will fall into place. God says He has the good things for you stored up in His heart. Doesn't have lack for you. He has the good things for you. He has the abundance. He is a much more God. He is a more than enough God. He is a God who gave way too much to people who thought they were way too little, because that's the kind of God He is, because that's what He expects. He expects you to do your part so that He can do His part. And that's something very crucial and important that people don't understand, that if you're not doing your part, then God can't do His part. At least not through you, not in your life, not in your place. Because if you're too busy giving all of your time and setting up all of your, strongholds to be successful in this world, then you're taking your eyes off the ball, and you're not giving God any space to work, in you to do what He needs you to do. Whereas when you allow God to work in you, you achieve everything that you want and then some, because that's what God does. And that's what the importance of setting up that spiritual defense is, because when you set up a spiritual defense, you allow God to permeate inside of you. And then not only does He permeate inside of you, but then He strengthens the inside of you, and He makes it possible for you to move forward in life according to His faith, according to His word, and not according to what some guy's telling you is the prerequisite to getting the job, or what some person's telling you is the standard for meeting the goal of that thing that you're got your eyes on. God's prerequisite and God's standard will override and overcome and overwhelm all of that, so that you'll achieve everything that you want according to the word, also while performing the will of God in your life. So we gotta take some time this week and today and for the rest of your life, and make sure that your defenses are set up spiritually, so that you are prepared to stand against the sieges of the enemy, that you're able to deflect the attacks from the world and from Satan. Because I'm a firm believer that not everyone's coming at you because they're a weapon of the devil. I believe people come after you just because you stand against the status quo, because you don't do what's normal, and they call you weird, or they call you a Bible thumper, they call you a holy roller, because they're just ignorant. There's three types of people. There's righteous, there's wicked, and there's the sinner, or the ignorant person. Don't be ignorant, and stand in a place where other people can see you. Stand on top of your wall. Let people know, like, hey, I'm not going anywhere, and I stand for the kingdom. And you're not going to be able to get into my gates, because they're shored up, because they're strengthened, because they're prepared to defend the hope and faith that is within. And make sure that you're putting your time and your skill into the word, and into practicing its promises and its principles and its statutes, just as much as you are anything else, if not more so. So what I got for you guys today, catch you guys in the next one. All right, guys, thanks for turning back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you click that subscribe button. Click that notification bell. Stay up to date with future post notifications. We got a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline, and I'm excited for this year. If you are interested in supporting me further, you can check out the merch shop, tph-faith-shop.printify.me. A lot of cool designs on there. You know, I keep it as cheap as I possibly can. I'm not trying to make a ton of money, but it'd be great if I could see some Piercing Heart shirts out in the wild. That'd be awesome. So, so make sure you're liking, commenting, subscribing. That helps push the videos out of the algorithm. And, you know, make sure that you're getting in the word every single day, and make sure you're sharing the content with someone who might need it. Because the point of this channel is not to make me famous, but it's to make God famous. Let's get faith on the front page of YouTube. Peace out. God bless. And I love you.